Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of A Conversation with Antuan Vance. I thank you for tuning in. I am excited about this episode. Bill Blume, really cool guy. I met him at a writers' conference. Um, it was a James River Writers' Conference. Really just easygoing. I mean, first time meeting him, and we just automatically just got along fantastically. We then met up, watched a movie. We'll go into more detail in the episode. What movie we saw. I mean, it wasn't like it was Avengers. It's a great movie. I mean, guys hanging out, watching a movie. He's a really great guy, like I said. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. I hope you like him. Hope you like the episode. Check out his website, www.billbloom.net. We'll have the links listed. Well, I will have the links listed in the YouTube channel. If you're listening on podcasts, please give me a like. Click the ratings, 5, 10, whatever the highest is. I would appreciate that. Also, check out the YouTube. The links are in there. Check out his website. At the end of this video, I'll also say the exact same thing. Likes are important. Shares are important. Just help me get this content out there and get it in the eyes of people. So, without anything else, please enjoy a conversation with Antuan, special guest Bill Blume.
All right.
It has been way too long. That's
God,
what
it really
say.
has.
It's been way too long.
Was it really Endgame when we last hung out?
Yes.
Jeez.
It's been
Yeah, we
forever.
were way overdue, man. Good
I
God. What's that?
I said yes. It has been. Like it was you and me, and we and your son. We went out and we watched Endgame, and it was an epic movie anyway.
Oh my God, it was great.
Then we went out, got a little bit of something to eat, and then that was it. And so like we really need to catch up like a lot sooner. But this is great. This is a great start.
Oh my God. That's Liam has actually moved out of the house now.
Really?
Yes. The boy, I was to say, my wife and I are empty nesters now. It's fantastic.
I can imagine so. I can imagine that it's just like, well, I can't even imagine what it's like because I mean, I live an empty nester life, but I can imagine like, obviously we'll have kids and then they'll be there all the time. And I'll be like, I miss being single and not having any kind of kids. But yeah, so what is it like now? Like, what's the,
Well, as I said, the only reason it's not full-blown empty nest is because we've still got the dog, and we actually now have a second dog
wow.
because Liam had gotten this German Shepherd mix. Sweet dog, but she's 50 pounds. She was way too much for the apartment they were in, he and his girlfriend. And so we have taken Mocha into our home, and she and Wicked are not exactly hitting it off great, but it's not as bad as it could be. Our daughter, when she was still living with us, has her own dog, which is a pit bull. Sweet dog too. Absolutely sweet dog, but she's just like this lumbering giant, and Wicked was like, oh hell no.
Oh my goodness, yeah. You got this big dog, you got this small dog, and it's just like they're not communicating. Like that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what his issue, I think, primarily with Mocha right now. It's like this dog is huge and she's in my way.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, I mean, admittedly, she's not as bad. I mean, he's not as bad as he was with Rose, but yeah, that we're hoping things will warm up a little bit more. We'll see. We were foolishly optimistic initially because the first time they met, they hit it off so well.
Yeah.
Mocha wasn't fixed yet, so the sense of love was in the air, which is really hilarious to watch a 15-pound dog try to flirt with a 50-pound.
Oh my goodness.
He was like pawing her side and stuff. Was like, hi. I was gonna say it was shameless, was hysterical.
It
But
just kind
now
of
yeah, I was gonna say the joke I've been telling, which is a little off color, of what my joke of it is Wicket's a general reaction as to what's happening. We're like, I was just wanting a one night stand, and now the bitch has moved in and won't leave.
that's hilarious. Wow. But
So what have you been up to? What you been doing?
um, it's crazy because it's been just work for me. Like I think since the last time we spoke, I did finish my novel Dakota. So I got that out there, and um, I kind of had this idea of putting some stuff in motion as far as like getting, you know, a book tour or something going, and then
Nice.
all of a sudden, hey, everything's
Yeah.
shut down. So it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do anything, and it was kind of just kind of froze in place. But yeah, I've even with that going on, I've just been working, not writing
Uh,
so much as working, like because I, even though things were shutting down, and my job almost shut down, I got a different job, and then after that, it was just like never like a moment of peace.
oh
This is
no.
exaggerating, but it was just like it was just like 50, 60 hour weeks of that, just like every week, every week, every week. And so like it was,
Brutal.
yeah, I spent a lot of time just kind of like existing in the frame of like keep going, keep making money, keep working your job, and now I'm kind of settling back into my zone again of being more productive with my writing and just being more involved with the community. And actually, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you was because I know you were speaking at the conferences and you were involved in James for Writers. Have you still been doing that, or have things kind of like dramatically shifted or changed since we last spoke? Because I know you were deeply involved in that. You were teaching classes.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely still involved. I moderated one of the writing shows last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
did a couple of the panels at the writers conference, which went virtual for last October. It's going to be virtual again this year. We had to make a call. They had to make a decision early on in the year, back in January, because they were like, if we wait to make this decision, we're going to just put ourselves in a bad spot if we end up having to go a different direction than we were expecting.
Yeah.
And they feel like, given that, yeah, I mean, back in January, just the general impression was like, this could still be going on come October, and people will still be nervous about trying to go to in-person events. So we're like, let's just commit to online. And that's kind of getting a little scary now because there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue, humorously enough. I mean,
Yeah.
but there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue for a lot of organizations like JRW right now. And I'm hoping for an event like the conference, though, it'll still be something big enough to where it'll kind of be able to beat back on some of that fatigue that people are feeling, even though people are finally getting an opportunity to get out again. I've actually got a writing show I'm doing at the end of this month in May. I don't know if this will probably go online before that, but it's going to be a writing show. Gosh, I can't. It's the last Wednesday of May, and I will be moderating a panel. And I can't remember. It's on character development. I'm drawing a blank on my speakers at the moment, but it's something I'm really looking forward to. In fact, one of the things I'm going to be doing, I'm on my weekend now, and I'm going to be hardcore crunching in my prep for that because I got like 3 books I need to read.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these books you have to read, like are you presenting on them, or just kind of like influencing what you're going to be talking about, or what's the
influence what I'm going to talk about? I mean, it's one of those things. I do a lot of moderating, and so it's like I like to try and tailor the questions to whatever the author's most recent work is, just so I can I'm also kind of helping promote their work a little bit.
Yeah.
It'd be easy, especially with something like character development. It'd be real easy for me to just write up a lot of general questions and then throw it at them and let them to take the hard work of figuring out how they're going to tie it into their work. But I like to take that extra step to try and aim it at the work they're trying to promote, so that they can really kind of talk about it more openly, and it's less like them making a sales pitch at that point.
I like that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And that creates a great segue for me to ask you, What are you currently working on?
Oh my gosh. I actually have got something. I'm working on a lot of things right now. I'm in the middle of the first adult fantasy I've written in a long while.
Okay.
Um, it's about a husband and wife sword fighting duo who go to hell on a quest for revenge and now have to fight their way out. The book is really just about them trying to get out of hell alive.
Wow.
And
Yes, that
it's
sounds interesting.
it's so freaking weird and I love it. I mean, I've been able to come up with some insane elements, and I've had to do the most unlikely research for a book about hell. Like I actually have had found blueprints for a World War II aircraft carrier. And it's like I've got this sequence in it where one of the characters has to get through this ship that's full of these kind of fish-like demons that are trying to kill him. And he's like, the ship is split in half and he has to get from one side to the other.
You have to feel like one of those like the rock moments, like it's like whoa, slow motion, and then like jumps across and gets to the other side.
I'm having so much fun writing that book. It's just been hard to write it because of COVID. I like to go to a cafe to write, and it's had all the damn cafes closed. There is a Starbucks really close to where I live, where they have a patio area that stayed open, but it's like if the weather sucks, I'm out of luck.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the big thing. I'm really rough draft mode on right now. The other thing I've got going on is Amazon's starting a serialized fiction format called Vella, and it's kind of, if you're familiar with Wattpad, it's kind of in that vein, but it's like a paid service. People will pay to read your story, and it's the cost is for them to keep reading the story is determined by how much the word count is for each episode. And I have a trunked fantasy novel, another adult fantasy novel that I wrote more than a decade ago that I gave up trying to find an agent with that one. But it's also one, my wife Sherry, it's one of her favorite books out of the things I've written, even all these years later.
Yeah, get it out. Yeah.
Well, I wrote it in, even though it's an epic fantasy, it's written in the style of a thriller novel, and that there's lots of, it ends with a lot of cliffhangers on some of the chapters and stuff, and they're kind of short and quick. And I realized when I saw what Amazon was doing, I was like, that would be a perfect format for the Cold Shoulder. So that's going to be doing that. It's about this guy who's it's essentially an epic fantasy Burn Notice before Burn Notice even existed. I wrote it back in the day, and it's about this guy who used to be a spy for an organization called the Order of the Hunt, and he broke away from it for reasons that you find out later in the book. And he ends up getting framed for murdering an emperor, and so now he's got an entire other kingdom trying to hunt him down and kill him, in addition to the Order of the Hunt that still wants him dead for having abandoned them. And it's a lot of fun. It's got lots of weird creatures in it. I was doing all sorts of loony stuff. It was one of those things that, as a plot, it's very intricate and very carefully plotted out, but it was written with almost no idea where I was going for the vast majority of it. It just worked out well. I was writing a book with my wife Sherry at the time, and to do that manuscript, we had to be literally on the same page with each other. And so it was like we had character profiles, we had a map, we had, we would have discussions about, where each chapter, once we got to a chapter, it was like, okay, where does this need to go? Does this work? There were chapters where it's like, one of us would say, okay, that didn't turn out well, we need to start all over on that one, or we need to change this and this and that. And it was so structured that the Cold Shoulder was like, in a way, me cheating on that manuscript. It's like, yes, I do love your structured novel and all, but I also like this one that has none.
Yes, and I'm kind of like a pantser, and I've been thinking about being more structured with the next series of books that I work on. But yeah, I sit in front of the page and I have like a idea of where like I want it to go, but I'm flying like I have no idea at the beginning, like step by step how it's going to go, and so I'm amazed that you can sit down not just by yourself and planning out, but with your wife. Because I've never done a project where chapter by chapter, even designing the characters, like that level of structure for like that level of teamwork. That's impressive that you can pull that off and maintain
We actually
peace.
did it twice, but I will say
Really?
the first effort should never see the light of day.
Yeah.
The first we did. I mean, the first one wasn't a waste of time though, because
Mhm.
that's how we figured out our method for doing it. That other manuscript, we both have things in it now. This is also a trunked manuscript for us, and it's one of those things we would love to go back and rework it a little bit
Yeah.
because we've both grown up a lot. Because that was also more than a decade ago, and there's a lot of things we would want to change. I think more for her than for me,
Yeah.
and we would be almost essentially doing another revision before that could ever come out. And it would be really, we would almost be having to find our way to work together again because it's been
Yeah.
so long. We have not written together since that manuscript, and that's been a long time. So it's kind of like, dear God.
Well, you're empty nesters now, so you can bring the fire back. Start working on that. It might inspire other things to come up. Once you get that coming through.
Yeah, I was saying maybe. I mean, that's the thing. This could be the right time because of that. So we'll see.
That's just awesome, man. So are you ever gonna go back to the Gideon's Hunt, Gideon's Blood, that story system, or are you done with that story? Is it all pretty much dead and
I
gone?
go back and forth on this because the truth is, I do love Gideon.
Yeah,
He was a fun character to write. And I mean, I'm a sucker for a good vampire hunter story.
of
I know
course.
everyone loves to obsess about the vampires themselves, the monster, but I always, to me, the hunter was always much more interesting because it's like, what kind of maniac makes a living off of chasing down monsters? I mean, that's a fun character to write.
Yeah.
And Gideon, he was actually also one of those that he kind of, I did like a, when I wrote that manuscript, I had very little planned out. I
Mhm.
just did an idea of I figured out his home life, like, single dad, what dad did for a living, that he was really trained by the granddad, and that the dad was in the dark about what Kitty was doing,
Yeah.
which was mainly written from I did the main setup with Gideon and his dad was all about making a good YA story, because you also have, for a YA novel, you don't want the parent to be able to swoop in and save the day.
Of course.
Uh, and I mean, middle grade too has that issue. That's why there's so many dead parents. I mean, let's be honest.
That's I hate to say it because I love my parents incredibly, um, but telling a story like the dead parent is kind of like an
Oh my
easy go
God,
to.
yes.
Like it's
Oh yeah, and
it's kind of sad.
I did the I was to say now I was saying, and of course the mother is not, she's gone. She at the beginning of the book she's dead,
Yeah.
and you, that's part of why the dad doesn't want Gideon hunting. But it was also I it wasn't so much the fact that I just didn't want to have a mom around in the story. It was more
Yeah.
along the lines of, I can find a legitimate excuse for Gideon to run around and hunt at night without his dad figuring it out, because I can
Yeah.
put the dad at work and make him a 911 dispatcher. But like, I can only use that excuse for one parent in fiction. I
Yes.
didn't think the reader would buy it if I did it for both the mom and the dad. Even if I gave her a different job, it would just be like, I think it would have felt like, oh, that's just so convenient.
Yeah. You have to do something like really like twist it, like maybe like have like some sort of like a absentee like alcoholic kind of mom, and then I make sure look bad as opposed to like
Yeah, and
just not
I
getting
don't.
out there at all or something like that.
That is something I would probably never want to write.
Yeah.
Even with the dad, Gideon's dad, that was actually one of the other things. I was determined Gideon's dad was not going to be an absentee parent. And I will say, in
Yeah.
general, YA has gotten a lot better about that within the past decade. There's been a
Mhm.
lot of improvement about the parent tropes, and the
Yes.
whole absentee parent thing. It's really nice to see that. I just think a lot of people started to realize that we were all kind of leaning on that, and that just,
Too much. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it's also not realistic.
Yeah. I mean, you're like I've not. Fortunately, I can say fortunately, I've not met a parent as bad as parents in fiction. So yes, Yeah, so I'm sure there are some out there, but
Oh
I haven't
yeah,
met anyone
absolutely.
like that bad. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, one of the few books I can think of where I really loved the fact that the parent was kind of checked out of the
Yeah.
relationship a little bit, and I felt like the author made it work. Was The Girl from Everywhere by Heidi Heilig, which is about this girl whose dad has this time traveling pirate ship.
Oh, really?
It's a really good book, and Heidi is just a fantastic writer, and the way she, for me, that book justified it. It couldn't work any other way,
Yeah.
and it made total sense for the dad to be as screwed up as he is. So I was in that book. I think if you're looking for that trope, that's the way to do it.
I like
So
that.
yeah.
Yeah. I I love having these conversations, but it also really kind of puts me into thinking like, how am I going to make my stories work, and how I'm going to and you're talking about parents. In my book, The Catalyst, I had the mom gone, and I was going to have the dad gone, and then I liked him so much, I decided I was just going to keep him around, and it completely changed the story. Instead of being like focused on the two teens, I was like, this dude's awesome. Like I can't kill him.
Oh no,
So
that's good. That's
yeah,
when you know you got a good character.
yes. I could not let him go. At least not yet. And in the end, he has to go. But until then, like I'm gonna keep him around as long as possible. So so that's we'll we'll see how that goes. Um, I do kind of have a question. Do you have anything like planned for like a series? Do you have any sort of structure when you're writing as far as like a queue? Because I have a queue of all these stories I have to write. Do you have like anything laid out in the future that you're working on, or
I've
pretty much like
tried.
each story at a
I
time?
well, I mean, I really with Gideon's Hunt and Gideon's Blood. Part of the reason I go back and forth on returning to Gideon one day is because I have told the story I wanted to tell.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The arc in those two books, that's the story I wanted. But I will be the first to admit there's still so many things I could play with in that world, and that I even set there are little touches within the stories that I'm laying the groundwork for it too. But it's one of those things that if I were to continue with that, I have to build a whole new arc over multiple books for Gideon and the characters
Yeah.
that are going to be involved. That's part of the reason I kind of hesitate. One of the downsides I've discovered about having a series like Gideon's Blood, I love that book. I love how it turned out. I was terrified of the so-called sophomore slump, and to toot my freaking horn, I nailed it with that book. Damn it, that book turned out better than I'd hoped.
Yeah.
But I can't sell that book to anyone unless I sell them on the first book. And when you have a
Ah.
series, you
Yeah.
spend the rest of your life with that series selling
Stuck.
that first book. No matter
Yeah.
how good or how well the later books stand on their own, you are still selling that first book. And it drive it from and so for me, I am trying a lot harder to aim for single standalone stories that might have series potential.
Yeah.
A good example of that, the thing I'm shopping around to agents right now, is a Cold War fantasy novel that focuses on, it's kind of like X-Men
Yeah.
meets John le Carre, and it's got a very realistic approach to the spy work, but
Yeah.
it's this idea that these kids who are half human and half mythical creatures, like the main character Lena, she is half human, half sea dragon. Oh, I love Lena. She was so much fun to write. In fact, she's actually a character I salvaged from a trunked manuscript from way back in the day.
Yeah.
That one will never see the light of day. But I loved her character so much. In fact, the cool thing was she was a supporting character in the original thing I wrote her in. This one, she's the star, and I loved being able to write this whole thing. It's set in 1983.
Mhm.
It starts in East Berlin, of course, because you gotta, if you're going to do a legitimate Cold War novel, a spy novel, you gotta have the East and West Berlin in there somehow.
Of course.
And so I did that. That was kind of that was part of why I say it's somewhat John le Carre. But that book, it was one of the hardest things I ever wrote. The thing about it that I did, though, is the way the book ends, the characters take out all the bad guys. However, I know that if I were to try and do it as a series, because it certainly has series potential, absolutely has it built in, but at the same time, it's standalone. But if I were to do a series and I was going to plan out a series, I'm like, okay, that character, this one bad guy, he gets away.
Yeah.
That one's getting away, and I'm going to have to figure out, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I know that part of the story and the overarching storyline is going to be hunting that jerk down and taking him out.
Yes. I can agree with that there. Yeah. I like everything you said there made perfect sense to me, because I never think about the fact that the first book has to sell and you have to keep that going. And it is something nice about sort of like putting the work into something, but then being able to like tie like a bow on it, like I can put this aside and I can move on to this. So I agree there. That's like the whole war story sounds interesting. The first thought when you said a sea dragon and a human, well, that is the strangest one night stand.
Well, it's. Oh God, yeah. I drew on a lot of mythological creatures for it. Like there's one character who's half human, half phoenix.
Yeah.
And then of course I was like, how do you kill someone like that? And I was like, that was a fun thing to play with. But it was also, it's a little bit like Alias in that the main character, Lena, she and some of her teammates, they are trained and live on this campus that's run by the CIA called the Farmhouse. But they also attend one of the local schools. In fact, there's a tie-in to Gideon's his series, because the school he attends is the school that Lena and her teammates attend, Westchester High School, which is my fictional high school from that series, the Gideon Keep series. And so, it's like, I even found a way to get a cameo with one of the characters from Gideon's series to show up there, because there was someone who made perfect sense. And I couldn't pass on slipping him in there somehow. So it is running with the idea that, yes, this is a shared universe. They are in the same reality.
I like that. The shared universe, it really works. I'm a big fan of Stephen King. And so I like that he kind of has a way of bit by bit in some stories, like pointing out like dairy here, pointing out this other story here, and just kind of like keeping it, even though they're completely separate stories.
Yeah.
And there's actually a graphic you can probably find on the internet, and it shows how all these different characters, all these stories kind of tie into each other.
I've got to find that.
You can find it. I could probably actually, I can refine it again, and I can send you a picture of it or a link.
Oh, that'd be cool. I was gonna say, because I know, like, I read his Dark Tower series, which was a big influence on me, and there's so many tie-ins there.
Yes, I love that. The Dark Tower series. Honestly, as many books I have that I told myself I'm going to read, and I bought, and I should read them, I really feel like I almost want to go back and reread that series again, because I fell so in love with it, and it has kind of influenced, part of me too, and I really do want to go back and re-explore that, and I really hope we bring out some more books for that, because I love that series.
Yeah, I will say I haven't gone back to reread the entire Dark Tower series, but I have reread the first book in it, The Gunslinger, several times.
Yes.
For me, that first book was just, man, that totally changed my world as a writer. I was in high school at the time I read it. My wife, Sherry, lent it to me. It's the first book she ever lent to me. And in fact, humorously enough, the copy she lent me was a copy she had never returned to the guy she was dating before me. I like to joke, I got the girl and the book. So, yeah. But yeah, it was just, that totally was, I'd never seen anything like that or imagined anything like that book.
Yeah.
Epic fantasy Western that was really dark. And I loved it. I mean, actually, you've got another thing I'm shopping around the small presses that was written as kind of an homage to that book. Part of the reason I recently reread it, and it just, oh man, yeah, Roland Deschain, that is a hell of a character.
He
For
really
me and my
is.
wife, both one of our favorites.
He deserves a Netflix series. I think. I think whoever genius out there that decides not to make it like a movie that's like the Dark Tower, but isn't really the Dark Tower. I want someone to actually like take that series and actualize it into a workable series because it deserves it.
I will say though, Idris Elba. I know there are some people who will completely disagree with me on this. Perfect casting for that role. Perfect. I mean, he's just got that badass quality that when he walks in a room, I mean, you don't miss Idris Elba when he shows up. Damn it.
That is very true. That is very true because he does have a presence. Like, I actually was disappointed that he didn't have more of a part in the Marvel when he played. What's the guy that he played?
Heimdall.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see a few more scenes with him in it because you're right. He just when we come on the camera and he has his presence and he has his voice and he has like, I keep telling some people to watch the Luther series because like he said he's on the Luther series, which seems to be
it's weird.
Is it?
I've watched the Luther series. It's good, but I mean, man, it's dark.
Really?
And it's like some of the stuff he does, you're just like, holy crap, man.
I'll definitely have to check it out because
there's like this one romantic interest in it that you're just kind of like, that is so screwed up.
It makes great entertainment. The more screwed up, the better. You can't play it safe when you're telling the story. You gotta go deep.
Oh, they definitely don't go safe with that one. Yeah, and it's just again, Idris Elba. It's just I mean, I remember when he even got cast as Heimdall, there was a lot of people who were like, and I remember the director Kenneth Branagh. I remember him even making a comment. It's like when you get a chance to work with Idris Elba, you take it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I do. I'll say this: I am a story purist, so I don't like people to drift too far from the main character in the book. But I'm sure exceptions are always made for Idris. I'm surprised they haven't mentioned him being, James Bond, because I know there was talk about.
Oh, there's been talk, but yeah, I don't know if he would do it.
I don't think. I think there would be still a lot of divide, but I feel like he doesn't have to be 007. He can always be like a different. It could be like if James Bond is capable of having a universe if they really wanted to. So
yeah, no, go ahead.
No, so I was gonna say so they could have like James Bond is 007. He could be like 009, or he could be like 002, or he could be a double whatever it needs to be to get him in there, or something.
Oh yeah, guy reminds me. I can't wait to see the new one, Craig's last one, because they actually do have a different 007 in it. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, he's I guess he retired, then a woman replaced him, and now he's kind of like coming back.
I love it.
He's still like involved somehow, and so
yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is with that. I'm curious.
We'll see. I hope it lives up. I hope it's because every James Bond movie I've watched, actually maybe not every, most of the James Bond movies I've watched, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I watched it. I watched all of them. And I think the only one I thought was kind of weird was the one with the voodoo guy. That was kind of like, he was a little bizarre for me.
Which one? I'm sorry.
There's like a voodoo guy.
Living Like Die.
Or something like that.
Living Like Die. Although the guy.
Die. Yes. That was
it
was bizarre for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the name of the actor was who played the bad guy in that. I'm drawing a blank, and that's going to drive me nuts. He was he also was one of the main cast members for the TV series Homicide: Life on the Streets, which is one of my favorite all-time TV dramas. I think it's one of the best cop dramas ever, and he was so good in that. I mean, he just owned that series when he was in it. He and the other, in fact, the other actor who I really loved from that was Adric. Oh gosh, why am I drawing a blank on this?
It's okay. I have trouble like remembering names of actors too. Like I watched the movie, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But then my brain just slips because I'm focused on the character name. Then the character name slips too, and I was focused on the story.
Oh,
So it's hard to remember names these days. For me.
Andre Brower, and it's hilarious because now he played this really just, I guess for lack of a term, very pissy character. But he was so, I mean, he was brilliant in the role. He was amazing. And it's just hilarious that he's gone on to now do another cop series that's a comedy. And it's just hilarious. He's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think it is.
Oh, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That is.
He's the I think, I can't remember what his rank is, and if he's the sergeant or lieutenant, but he's basically the guy who's in charge.
Yes.
Andre Brower, and it's just hysterical to me that he has managed, and it's like he actually managed to be pigeonholed as in a type, but do something completely different. Because he's in a cop series again, but he's like totally playing a different character.
I think that's. I wish they had another series. I think there was either they stopped filming or maybe the pandemic has something to do with them not filming another stuff.
Yeah, I don't. That's one of those things. I will confess, I've only seen like a few episodes of that series. I'm terrible about keeping up with stuff like that. Oh my gosh,
there's too much to watch. Honestly, it's hard to keep up with everything, especially when you're trying to read books and write. You can do so much as far as like these TV shows, but if you just need a laugh one day, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a guaranteed laugh. Like, they're such a goofy people. They're so, I love them. They're just hilarious.
That's one, and The Good Place is one of those everyone raves about it. In fact, there was a writer I follow on Twitter, Mike Chin, and he did a thing saying that, I think he posted some tweet about how it's like, instead of the chaotic good, and all those diagram things, that they should just do a similar thing, but it's just based on characters from The Good Place. And I can't remember what the other series was, but I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'd have no frame of reference for this.
Someone recommended The Good Place. I haven't actually watched it yet. But it's funny you mentioned The Good Place. Actually, reminded me of a question I was going to ask you. If you were going to, let's say you were approached, and someone wanted you to write in one of the franchises or part of like a series of a show, what would you want to write in?
Oh, God.
What was like your dream list of things you would write for?
I would probably want to do a CW, the DC show, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, which is funny because I'm more of a Marvel person, but I also will readily admit there is a lot of DNA shared between the Tim Drake Robin and Gideon Keep in my Vampire Hunter series. There's, in fact, that when I was collecting there was a series with Tim Drake titled Red Robin, where he kind of broke out on his own, and it was before DC did their New 52 reboot, which I will always be bitter about because he and the girl who was the Stephanie, who was the Batgirl at that time, those two characters had really started coming into their own, and then just the reboot just swept it all out from under them. And I just, I was so mad.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like there's some shameless reference to Tim and the Gideon Keep books. There's even there's like one scene in the first book where he's buying an issue of Red Robin. Mm-hmm. Even though the series was defunct by that point, I was just like, if I'm going to make a fantasy world, I'm going to just have the books I want to read in it. So comic books included. So Red Robin survived there. And then I also kind of have a conversation between him and the dad in the second book, where it's like Gideon's basically saying that they're getting to have like a Batman and Robin moment. He's like, but I wouldn't be Damien. He's just basically a punk.
Yeah. I like that.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was going to do it, that would probably be the thing I'd want to write, just because I'm really excited that the Titans series is going to be in their next season. They're going to introduce Tim Drake. In fact, you were even talking about the kind of, they actually are casting him differently from the book in that he's going to be a young black guy.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see how that will change the character. And I hope it will in some ways. If they're doing it right, it should. And it will be really cool to see that. I like the fact they're doing it. Even as much as I love Tim, I'm not a purist about it. I love seeing that kind of stuff done.
Well, as long as they have to tell a good story. They can't just switch things around. As long as they're able to like stay true to the character and not try to reshape the character and their image.
Yeah, I was gonna say. In fact, did you see the Dark Tower movie when they did that?
I saw the Dark Tower movie. Yeah,
I will say Idris Elba, I think, was perfectly cast, but the character was definitely not written true to the book.
Yeah,
I don't feel like they got that. That had nothing to do with the fact that they had cast Idris Elba. Nothing.
Yeah, it was just them trying to. They wanted to make a Dark Tower movie, but they didn't want to make a Dark Tower. They just wanted to. They took the first book and the last book, and they meshed them together. It seems like it, and it was like, but there are like 7 books. Actually, technically 8 because he wrote one that's kind of in the middle of the fourth and the fifth.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Wind in the Door. Yeah, I have not read that one. That's the one thing I haven't read. I actually bought that for my wife 1 year as a gift when it came out.
Yeah,
but I never actually read it myself. I don't know why. I just.
It's a good read. I mean, if you just kind of want to play around with it one day, just to kind of revisit the characters, I would definitely encourage you to check it out because he talks about one of his first adventures. After the events of the fourth one, where he was talking about like when he's talking about his past when he was a young person with his friends.
Oh,
it's kind of after that.
Gotcha.
And so he kind of talks about like again young Deshane, tackling. I've got to revisit that story too because I'm forgetting details. but he tells the story about him being in playing the role he's played before he things went south.
Isn't it like after the fall of Gilead, if I'm remembering?
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I was like, it's been a long time.
Yeah, which is why I said I want to reread it because I liked it so much. And just forgetting elements disappoints me because it's such a good story.
I was shocked when I revisited The Gunslinger a few years ago at how much I had forgotten because I felt like I had remembered a lot of it, but man, there was so much that just completely slipped my mind. So yeah, one thing I've done in a few places, like I reread the first book in N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy. Mm-hmm. I reread the first book by doing it as an audiobook, which was really cool. And the same kind of thing. I thought I remembered so many of the details, but then when I was listening, I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. And then there were things I was picking up on because I had read the other 2 books that followed. Mm-hmm. I was picking up on details about things. I was like, oh. I remember realizing she was laying the groundwork for that crap in the first book that I had totally overlooked. I was like, man. But yeah. And so it's like, but I tried that with the Gunslinger series. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't work. The guy who reads it, it doesn't work. I did feel like the voice was going to be one I could hang out with for like 8 hours.
Yeah, that's voice acting is not an easy thing, and I've kind of considered the idea of maybe like trying to do some voice acting, but yeah, if you don't have the right voice for the story, it just even like my own books. I want to voice act my own books, but because there's a strong female voice, I cannot pull off a female voice to save my life. Like, if a gun was up my head and it said, sound like a believable woman, that's the end of my story. Like,
yeah, but although I do find it's like, I feel like, so often it's like I'm a bass. I've got a really deep voice.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize I've gotten to the point where I've listened to so many audiobooks. I'm like an audiobook snob now. It's
Yeah.
pathetic. But I've come to realize the ones who have the really deep voices and the women who have the really high voices are generally not very good.
Yeah.
It's because it's harder for them to cross into, like the deep voice guys can't really do a decent job with a lot of the female voices, and then vice versa. I've had several audiobooks where I've come across where it's like the reader was good right up until they had to do a voice for someone of the opposite sex, and then it just kind of like, oh,
you're like my ears.
Yes, the worst one I ever heard was a guy doing a YA book, and it's like every female character. Oh my God, it was brutal, absolutely brutal, man. He was terrible. I don't know, and it's probably a testament to the author that I stuck that one out to the end. But
yeah.
I was like, I could never go back and do that series that way. I'd have to go to print if I was going to continue it.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I have to cut this short.
Oh no!
Yeah, because we're at our time, and I absolutely love this, and I would love to do this again because I just love talking to you.
Yeah, man, it's been way too long.
We've got to sit down sometime and really just do this again, but also sit down get something to eat.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say we need to get together, grab a coffee or something, man. I was gonna say we're finally getting ready to be post-COVID.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to sitting down, talking to a human being face to face, in an environment where we're allowed to do that, and just really kind of just shoot the breeze and just chill. But thank you for coming and having a conversation with me because I truly value this. And
oh man, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. And God knows, I just enjoyed being able to catch up with you because, like you said, it's just been too long.
Absolutely, 100%. So let's do this again. I'll message you, and we can again we can catch up. And thank you again. I love this, and I miss you so much, dude. We don't know.
Yeah, no, this past year has been awful.
Yeah. So it's we'll pick up, and I'd love to hear more about your other story too later on. We can go into details about what you're currently working on.
And I was saying, I need to find out some of the stuff you're working on. We didn't get into that.
Yeah, I didn't talk about myself too much. I will deal
You're being a good host.
I am being a good host. Yes. I think I'll be a terrible host next time. It's been like 15 minutes talking about.
I'm good with that plan.
Yeah, I'll. It's been great, man. It's been great.
I agree. You take care. Let me know how you're doing.
I will. I absolutely will. Well, I'll see you, buddy.
All right. Good luck with the writing. I'm going to be doing. Hopefully, I gotta keep. Unfortunately, I will not be in the book. I got to go read.
Yes, me too. Always read. Never ceases. I mean, that's part of the job, though. Writers always have to read. So. Peace out, buddy.
Later, man. You take care.
Thanks. Well, there we have it. Great time talking to Bill. Seriously. After that, we talked for an hour. I feel like, this 45 minutes isn't enough with people, so usually I find myself talking a lot more than that after the episode's over, and I kind of feel like I'm cheating you because you get this bit here and then there's like an hour of conversation you don't get, but hopefully they'll come back and we'll get to talk more. And same thing with the next person I talked to. Had a great time talking to her. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Bill Blume. Wonderful time, great guy. Check out his books, the Gideon Keep series, and also check out his website, www.billbloom.net. Have a wonderful day, and also likes, share, retweet, tweet, whatever you gotta do. Share this, like it, top ratings. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.